Kendra Williams wheeled herself down the hallway of Cedar Ridge High School 6 months after the car accident that had upended her entire life. As the new black girl at an overwhelmingly white school, she had braced herself for curious stares, but she never expected the vicious bullying that followed. When Ashley Morgan, the cheer squad's reigning queen, joined by Brianna Hall and Jessica Turner, blocked her in the parking lot, they callously yanked her from her wheelchair and left her sprawling on the scorching pavement, laughing and filming as if their cruelty would never have consequences. What Ashley didn't know was that before the accident, Kendra had been a martial arts prodigy, trained from childhood by her father, a battle-hardened former military combat coach. Soon enough, those mean girls would learn a brutally painful and costly lesson. It was a glorious September morning, the sky a brilliant blue that seemed untouched by sorrow. Kendra sat silently in her wheelchair, tucked into the back seat of the car her father Marcus drove with careful precision toward her new school. Her face was pensive, her dark eyes heavy with an unnamed anxiety. She stared out the window as the world slipped past like a silent film she wished she weren't starring in. Just 6 months earlier, her life had been completely different. She'd been a vibrant student, the martial arts star of her Richmond school, always dazzling with her confident smile. Then one stormy night, the screech of brakes, the headlights blinding her, the wrenching crunch of metal. All in an instant, it was gone. Kendra awoke in a hospital bed with paralyzed legs and a daunting new reality she'd never prepared for. Her father's voice pulled her back to the present. "Kendra, you okay?" "I'm okay," she lied, trying to hide the knot of nerves tightening in her chest. "I'm just not sure what today will be like." Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his gaze gentle but steely, the look of a dad ready to protect his little girl. "You've already conquered the toughest months. This school is a fresh start. I know my daughter can handle it." Kendra forced a bright smile, though her worry still lingered in her eyes. The car came to a stop before the gates of Cedar Ridge High, a sprawling, prestigious campus known for its wealth, where most students came from powerful, well-to-do families. She took a deep breath, smoothed her jacket, and guided her wheelchair down the curb. The moment she appeared on campus, every head turned. She'd never felt more out of place. Trendy kids in designer clothes strutted by while she maneuvered slowly in her wheelchair, drawing a mix of curious and judgmental glances. She felt the weight of every whisper as she passed. "Who's that? Beats me, must be the new wheelchair kid. Bet she's getting extra special treatment." Kendra steeled herself, refusing to let their words cut her down, but each comment felt like a tiny dagger to her heart, reminding her of how different she was. She rolled to the administrative office to pick up her schedule. An older woman with silver hair and thick glasses greeted her with a polite smile. "Welcome to Cedar Ridge, Kendra. I'm Mrs. Thompson. If you need anything, just let me know." "Thank you," Kendra whispered, taking the schedule with trembling hands. As she turned to leave, the door swung open and 3 girls entered. At their head was a stunning blonde with piercing blue eyes, Ashley Morgan, captain of the cheer squad and the undisputed queen of Cedar Ridge. Brianna Hall and Jessica Turner flanked her like devoted shadows. Ashley glanced at Kendra with cool disdain, then whispered to her friends. "They really let someone like that in here. Pathetic." Brianna and Jessica's giggles rang in Kendra's ears like nails on a chalkboard. Her throat went dry. Her heart pounded. And yet, she kept rolling, refusing to meet their eyes. On her very first day, Kendra realized Cedar Ridge would be more than just a new school, it would be a gauntlet. The stares, the whispered rumors, the cruel laughter, these were just the opening salvos of the storm that lay ahead. Later, sitting alone in a deserted hallway, Kendra gripped her wheelchair's wheels, her eyes blazing with a quiet resolve. "I won't let them break me. I survived the worst accident of my life. I can survive this place too." What she couldn't know was that her greatest challenges, and her fiercest adversaries, were waiting just around the corner, determined to make her days at Cedar Ridge High the worst nightmare she'd ever known. The first morning at Cedar Ridge felt endless, each minute dragging on like a cruel punishment for Kendra. After a brief break, the bell rang, signaling the start of her first class. Kendra took a deep breath, steadying herself before pushing open the door. She rolled quietly into Mr. Reynolds' American history class and immediately felt the curious and uneasy stares of her classmates. Mr. Reynolds hurried over to help her find a spot in the front row, clearing enough room for her wheelchair. He offered a friendly smile, though he couldn't quite hide his own discomfort. "Welcome to class, Kendra. If you need anything, just let me know." "Thank you, sir," she whispered, forcing a polite smile. From this new vantage point, Kendra could see the whole room, and there they were. Ashley Morgan and her crew, sitting in the back row, eyes cold and full of contempt. Ashley leaned back in her chair, her perfectly styled blonde hair falling over one shoulder, those icy blue eyes reflecting the arrogance she wore like a crown. Once the class settled, Mr. Reynolds began his lecture on the American Civil War. No matter how hard she tried, Kendra couldn't focus. From behind her came whispered jabs and stifled giggles from Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica, just loud enough for her to hear, but quiet enough that the teacher didn't notice. "Wow, looks like this school really admits all kinds now," Ashley's mocking voice cut through the room. Jessica chimed in with a smirk, "Yeah, they must be trying to prove how inclusive Cedar Ridge is. We should feel so proud, right?" Brianna added venomously, "I bet she'll milk that wheelchair for every ounce of pity she can. Who dare punish someone like her?" Each barb pierced Kendra's heart. Her hands clenched on the wheel rims, fighting back the flood of emotions. She knew they meant for her to hear, to hurt her. But she also knew that any reaction would only make her stand out more. The class dragged on interminably. When the final bell finally rang, Kendra hurried to leave, desperate to escape their gazes. But as she reached the doorway, Ashley and her entourage blocked her path, faces smug, eyes challenging. "You must be Kendra, right?" Ashley purred, her honeyed tone oozing poison. "I'm Ashley, and these are Brianna and Jessica. Welcome to Cedar Ridge. You're even more special than we imagined." Kendra lifted her chin, keeping her voice steady. "Thanks. May I go now?" Ashley crossed her arms and tilted her head, feigning pity. "Oh, of course. You always get special treatment, right? That wheelchair must be pretty handy. Never late to class again, huh?" Brianna and Jessica laughed under their breath. Kendra gritted her teeth but replied coolly, "I don't use this wheelchair to get special favors. And if you have nothing else to say, please let me pass." Ashley raised an eyebrow, lips curling into a challenge. "Oh, strong words. But don't get too cocky. You never know when someone might step in to protect you." They laughed again, stepping aside so she could roll past. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could hear it. One clear thought echoed in her mind. "I'm not going to let them win. I will never back down." Once Kendra was out of earshot, Jessica turned to Ashley, eyes flashing with curiosity. "Don't you think we went a bit far, Ash?" "She is." Ashley's gaze cut through her sharply, and Jessica fell silent. Jessica, at Cedar Ridge, anyone who's different needs to know their place. Does she really think she can fit in here with that wheelchair and that pathetic look? No way. We're going to show her exactly where she belongs. Ashley's voice was cold and resolute, like a queen laying down the law in her domain. Brianna smiled in approval, and Jessica nodded reluctantly, falling in line with Ashley's plan, as always. Their footsteps echoed down the polished hallway, the ominous march of predators homing in on their prey. In Ashley's mind, there was only one thing that mattered. At all costs, she would assert her power. And Kendra Williams was the perfect target to prove it. The first days at Cedar Ridge passed in an exhausting whirl of tension. Every morning when Kendra arrived, her heart felt heavy with dread, her eyes darting around, waiting to see what Ashley and her friends would do next to put her down. Ashley Morgan, with the keen instincts of someone born to dominate a crowd, quickly realized the most effective way to manipulate and wound Kendra. Rather than openly insulting her in front of the teacher, Ashley adopted a far more insidious tactic: public feigned kindness. On the Tuesday of her second week, just as Kendra reached the door of her math class, Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica were already waiting in the crowded hallway, their smiles dripping with false goodwill. "Hey Kendra, let us help you," Ashley called out loudly, her bright grin as radiant as sunshine, yet her icy blue eyes betrayed a hidden malice. Before Kendra could respond, Brianna grabbed the handles of her wheelchair and shoved it forward, hard. Kendra yelped in panic, clutching the rims with white-knuckled hands as they careened through the throng of students. Brianna heaved and pushed awkwardly, practically shouting so everyone could hear. "Sorry, guys. We're just helping our special new friend get to class on time. Make way." Jessica tittered beside her, delighting in the terrified look on Kendra's face. They barreled down the hallway, jostling Kendra so she was forced to bow her head, silently wishing the floor would swallow her whole. When they reached the classroom door, Brianna let go abruptly, sending the wheelchair lurching forward. Kendra slammed on the brakes with her hands, pitching forward and gasping in fright. Ashley immediately chimed in with a contrived reproach. "Oh my gosh, Brianna, be careful. Kendra can't protect herself like a normal person." A few students nearby snickered. Kendra lowered her gaze, bitterness rising in her throat. Brianna feigned concern as she hurried over and tapped Kendra's shoulder mockingly. "Oops, sorry, I forgot how fragile you are. We'll be more careful next time, for real." In the days that followed, this cruel, helpful charade played out again and again, each time in a new variation. Ashley seemed to know exactly when and where to strike so that Kendra felt most vulnerable. Once, at lunch, Jessica deliberately dropped a tray of food right in front of Kendra's wheelchair, spilling everything on the floor in front of dozens of onlookers. Jessica feigned innocence. "Oh no, so sorry, Kendra, is everything okay? Need us to clean it up?" Ashley stepped in, her tone all sweetness but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Kendra probably needs more room to get around, right? Let's all move aside and not make things harder for her." Those seemingly kind words were laced with cruelty. They drew even more pitying, annoyed stares at Kendra, making her shrink further into herself, small and isolated in the sea of classmates. Ashley also cunningly used PE classes, which Kendra couldn't participate in, to deepen her isolation. While everyone played volleyball, Ashley announced with full concern, "Okay guys, remember to go easy. We wouldn't want to hurt our unlucky friend out here." Jessica and Brianna's laughter rang out like a sinister duet as they watched Kendra sitting alone on the sidelines, wishing she could disappear. Whenever Kendra tried to speak up or defend herself, Ashley was quick to redirect the conversation, using Kendra's very protests as proof that she was too sensitive and easily hurt. What was most frightening was how skillfully Ashley avoided teacher detection. In front of adults, she was the perfect student, always eager to help, polite to a fault, so no one suspected she could be hurting Kendra behind their backs. But the moment a teacher looked away, she slipped right back into predator mode, keeping Kendra in a perpetual state of extreme anxiety. In Kendra's loneliest moments, sitting alone in a deserted hallway, tears would well in her eyes more than once. But each time, she remembered her father's words on that first day at Cedar Ridge. "Kendra, you're stronger than you think. No one can defeat you unless you let them." Those words kindled a steady flame in her heart, giving her the strength to fight on each day. Yet no matter how strong she grew, Kendra had no idea that these vicious pranks were only the beginning of the even more dangerous schemes Ashley was silently plotting behind her dazzling, innocent smile. The cruel pranks from Ashley and her friends didn't just wound Kendra's pride, they began to seep into her home life, quietly eating away at the peace she once knew. Every evening when she came home, Kendra retreated to the garage, the very space her father, Marcus Williams, had turned into her training and rehab room after the accident. Lately, though, Marcus had noticed a striking change in his daughter's attitude. Exercises she once approached gently were now driven with an almost brutal intensity. One late afternoon, Marcus stepped into the garage and froze at the sight of Kendra gripping the parallel bars so tightly her knuckles were white, sweat streaming down her forehead, her arms trembling with effort. He watched in silence, his heart breaking as he saw her grit her teeth to hold back the tears of pain and determination. Softly, he approached and placed the strong, steady hand of a father and former soldier on her shoulder. His voice was low and gentle. "Kendra, you can take a break now. Don't push yourself so hard." Startled, Kendra turned to him and forced a shaky smile, her eyes quickly dropping away. "I'm fine, Dad. I'm just trying my best." Marcus knelt beside her, looking straight into her eyes, as if searching for something deep within his beloved daughter's soul. "Kendra, I know how strong you are, but you're hiding something, aren't you? What's going on at school?" Kendra's chest tightened. Ashley's taunting words echoed in her mind, and the shame and hurt she'd felt in the hallways made it impossible to speak. She inhaled deeply and shook her head. "It's nothing, Dad. I just want to get better fast. I don't want to be a burden anymore." Marcus squeezed her shoulder gently, his expression more serious than she'd ever seen. "Kendra, you'll never be a burden. I'm always here for you. Remember, winning isn't always about muscle. Sometimes it's about smarts and perseverance." She nodded silently, but inside, she carried a solitary resolve to handle this herself so her parents wouldn't have to worry. She refused to let Ashley and her clique see her plead for help. Meanwhile, Kendra's mother, Nia Williams, had begun to notice the change in her daughter as well. Once so outgoing and cheerful, Kendra had grown quiet and withdrawn. One evening at dinner, seeing the fatigue in her daughter's eyes, Nia gently asked, "Sweetheart, how's school these days? You haven't told me much. Is something wrong?" Kendra quickly looked down at her plate, feigning interest in her food as she spoke in a light, casual tone. "It's nothing, Mom. Just a lot of homework, kind of exhausting, that's all." Nia studied her daughter, a mother's intuition telling her something serious was being hidden. But she knew Kendra, pushing her too hard would only make her retreat further. With a sigh, Nia kept her voice tender and reassuring. "You know, whenever you need to talk, your dad and I are here. Don't keep everything bottled up, okay?" "I know, Mom," Kendra replied softly, her heart heavy with guilt and pain. After dinner, Kendra locked herself in her room, sitting on her bed and staring out the window. Ashley's mocking laughter and whispered taunts replayed over and over in her mind, as if thousands of tiny needles were stabbing her. Even though she wanted to cry, she refused to let her tears fall. She couldn't let her enemies see they'd won. Down the hall, Marcus and Nia stood outside her door, worry etched into their faces. Marcus spoke quietly, his voice steady but concerned. "We have to trust her. Kendra is fighting battles we don't fully understand yet. When she's ready, she'll come to us." Nia nodded, tears glinting in her eyes as she looked at the closed door. "I just fear she's hurting herself. Don't you feel like she's shutting us out more and more? I'm scared we don't know the real situation at school." Marcus took her hand and squeezed it firmly, resolve in his tone. "I understand. But I believe in Kendra. She's our daughter, and she has strength she doesn't even know yet. Let's give her time. When she's ready, she'll reach out." In her quiet room, clutching her pillow and closing her eyes, Kendra whispered to herself, "I'll handle this on my own. I won't let my parents worry anymore because of me." What Kendra didn't realize was that her vow of secrecy was exactly what Ashley had been waiting for. Ashley knew that isolating Kendra from any support was the quickest way to break her spirit, and the next round of cruel jokes would soon push Kendra closer to her breaking point than ever before. The days that followed saw Kendra's determination to keep everything from her family come at an ever higher price. The stress building inside her had become a ticking time bomb, waiting for a spark big enough to make it explode. And that Friday afternoon, the spark came, brutal and cruel in a way Kendra would never forget. After school, Kendra and her best friend Zoe Martinez headed toward the student parking lot. Zoe, with her warm smile and softly curled brown hair, had been the only friend by Kendra's side through every rough day. As they reached Zoe's small car, Kendra carefully locked her wheelchair in place so she could transfer into the passenger seat, an operation demanding her full focus and precision. Just as Kendra strained to swing herself over, a sweet yet mocking voice rang out behind her, making her freeze. Let us help you with that, Kendra. Before she could react, someone yanked her wheelchair out from under her. She lost her balance, nearly toppling to the asphalt, and clutched the car door for support, her heart pounding in her chest. Turning, she saw Ashley Morgan smugly seated in her chair, wearing a triumphant, challenging grin. Ashley gave the wheels a gentle spin, her cold blue eyes shining with cruel delight. So this is what special treatment feels like, huh? Must be nice. Ashley's triumphant giggle echoed as Brianna and Jessica trained their phones on Kendra, eager to capture her horrified expression. They jeered and laughed, heightening her humiliation and helplessness to a suffocating degree. Kendra forced herself to stay calm, though her voice trembled with desperation. "Give me back my chair, Ashley." Ashley tilted her head, feigning innocence even as her eyes glittered with ruthless satisfaction. "Oh, come on. I just wanted to see how it felt from your perspective. Besides, you always say you're so independent. Why don't you get up and take back your chair yourself?" Jessica moved in close with her camera, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "That's right, Kendra. Can you stand up and get it? Or are you just pretending all this time?" Brianna's laughter joined theirs in a cruel symphony, and Kendra's chest tightened as if someone squeezed her heart. She scanned the parking lot, hoping for someone, anyone, to intervene. But all she saw were sympathetic yet averted eyes, as if no one dared to acknowledge what was happening. Anger mingled with despair flared up within her. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of Ashley and her cronies. Zoe, standing beside her, finally could bear it no longer and stepped forward, voice firm. "Stop it, Ashley. This isn't a joke anymore." Ashley laughed, contempt dripping from her tone as she looked at Zoe. "Zoe, you might want to watch your mouth. Otherwise, you might be the one going viral tomorrow." That veiled threat froze Zoe in her tracks, her helplessness clear on her face. Kendra realized in that moment how utterly alone she was, trapped in a situation she couldn't resolve on her own. Ashley spun the wheelchair around the lot a few more times, her voice ringing out for all to hear. "Everyone look. Kendra really can't do anything without this chair. Who knows if she's actually disabled or just faking it for pity?" Jessica and Brianna erupted in gleeful laughter as they recorded. The curious but cold stares of passing students only intensified Kendra's shame and humiliation. Her hand trembled as she clutched the car door, her powerlessness reaching its peak. Finally, Ashley rose and shoved the wheelchair back toward Kendra, sending it crashing into the car's door. She sneered as she spoke. "All right. Here's your chair back. Hopefully next time you won't play the pity card so hard, Kendra." Ashley strolled away like a queen who'd just claimed a glorious victory, followed by Jessica and Brianna, who reviewed their footage and giggled as though their cruelty had been harmless fun. Kendra lowered her head, her hand trembling as she pulled the wheelchair back close. Zoe rushed to help her sit, tears of frustration in her eyes. "Kendra, I'm so sorry. I should have done something sooner." Kendra gripped Zoe's hand, forcing her voice calm, though every word cut her like a blade. "It's not your fault, Zoe. I never imagined they could be this cruel." Kendra sat silently in her chair, pain and despair engulfing her. Yet deep inside, that hurt was morphing into fierce resolve, an unspoken promise that she would never again let Ashley and her clique get away with such heartless cruelty. What Kendra didn't know was that the videos Jessica and Brianna had just shot would soon thrust her into an even greater challenge. A fierce battle not only to protect her dignity but to reclaim the justice she so rightfully deserved. The cruel images from that parking lot incident kept replaying in Kendra's mind, pushing her beyond her breaking point. After 2 sleepless nights, she finally broke her vow of silence and resolved to ask for help, sure that the school would side with her and protect her from such blatant wrongdoing. What she couldn't know was how profoundly disappointed and hurt she was about to be. On Monday morning, Kendra summoned all her courage and pushed open the door to Vice Principal Charles Johnson's office. She inhaled deeply, keeping her face calm, even though her heart was pounding. Behind his massive oak desk, Johnson sat, his salt and pepper hair slicked back, his expression unreadable as he studied his computer screen. He glanced up at her greeting but betrayed almost no reaction. "Hello, Kendra. What can I do for you?" Kendra steadied her voice, forcing out each word, even as it pained her to relive those memories. "Sir, I need to report what happened on Friday in the parking lot. Ashley Morgan, Brianna Hall, and Jessica Turner grabbed my wheelchair and mocked me in front of everyone. They even recorded it to humiliate me." Johnson leaned back in his chair, eyebrows knitting in faint skepticism. "Ashley Morgan, you say? Are you sure this wasn't just some misunderstanding, kids joking around?" His doubt stabbed at Kendra's chest, but she pressed on. "It wasn't a joke, sir. Zoe Martinez witnessed the entire thing. You can check the security cameras." Johnson sighed, irritation flickering across his features. "Look, Kendra, stuff like this happens all the time among students. Ashley is an exemplary student. She's never caused trouble. I think you're just too sensitive." Those words hit her like a bucket of ice water. Disbelief froze her for a moment. Swallowing hard, she tried one last time, voice trembling with desperation. "Sir, they really hurt me. This isn't the first time. Please do something to make it stop." He waved a hand, as if to dismiss her outright. "I understand you're upset, but you need to be more mature about these things. It's just harmless teenage teasing. If you don't make a big deal of it, it will blow over." Kendra stared at him in stunned silence. Betrayal and abandonment by the very system she trusted surged through her like a tidal wave. Slowly, she dropped her head and whispered, "I understand. Thank you, sir." She left his office feeling more powerless than ever, her steps as heavy as lead. What she didn't know was that minutes later, word of her complaint was already in Ashley's hands. That afternoon, Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica lounged in their usual corner of the quad. Brianna leaned in eagerly. "Guess what? Kendra just went to Johnson to tattle on us." Jessica frowned, a mix of curiosity and concern in her eyes. "I wonder what Johnson will do about it. Could we actually be in trouble?" Ashley laughed, her confidence and satisfaction shining through. "Don't worry. Johnson won't touch us. We're untouchable. My dad is one of the school's biggest donors. Besides, he thinks we're the model students." Brianna smirked. Looks like Kendra doesn't know her place. She thought complaining would help her. Ashley leaned back, a cold smile curving her lips. "Kendra needs to learn one thing. At Cedar Ridge, the weak always lose. Now she's the joke of the whole school." Their cruel laughter rang out, icy and merciless. They knew Johnson's indifference was their green light to keep tormenting Kendra without fear of consequences. For Kendra, the vice principal's callous dismissal was a wound that cut the deepest. She sat alone in a deserted hallway, her heart shattering at the bitter truth, she was utterly alone in this fight. Yet even in that moment of despair, a fierce resolve sparked within her. If the system wouldn't protect her, she would protect herself. And this time, she vowed, she would fight harder than ever, not just for herself, but for every person abandoned in the darkness, just like she had been. From the moment Kendra realized that even the school system couldn't protect her, she knew she couldn't wait around for someone else to come to her rescue. The painful disappointment after her talk with Mr. Johnson began to fuel a new energy within her, a determination more resilient than anything she'd felt before. Over the next few days, she spent every spare moment after school training in martial arts out in the garage, the very space her father, Marcus Williams, had built into a training and rehab center. Since she was little, Marcus, a former military martial arts instructor, watched her silently, pride and worry in his eyes as he saw the fierce resolve etched on her face. That evening, after nearly 2 hours of grueling drills, Kendra forced herself to stand, gripping the parallel bars. Her body trembled, sweat dripping from her forehead, but her eyes shone with unbreakable resolve. Marcus stepped forward and gently rested his strong hand on her shoulder, his voice warm and steady. "Kendra, why don't you rest for a bit? Your body needs time to recover too." She shook her head, drawing deep, measured breaths to steady her racing heart. Her voice was quiet but firm. Dad, I can't stop now. I have to be even stronger. Marcus brought over a chair and sat down in front of her, concern and firmness mingling in his gaze. I know you want to be strong. But remember the most important thing, you don't need just muscle to win. What you really need is calmness and a clear strategy. Kendra was silent, reflecting on his words. Marcus continued, his tone that of a seasoned soldier passing on hard-won wisdom. Bullies like Ashley thrive on anger and losing control. They think that's the easiest way to break you. But if you remain calm, clear-headed, and in control of your actions, you hold all the power. His words rang in her mind, and she realized she'd been consumed by pain and negativity for far too long. She drew in a deep breath, her eyes blazing with newfound determination. You're right, Dad. I've let them see how much they hurt me. But from now on, I won't let them control my emotions. Marcus smiled softly, patting her shoulder with pride. My daughter has always been strong. I believe in you. But remember, don't let anger drive you. Let your intelligence and courage guide you. From that day forward, Kendra focused not only on rebuilding her physical strength, but also on mastering her emotions and honing her tactical response to difficult situations. At every training session, Marcus set up scenarios and taught her how to stay calm, think clearly, and react with intelligence. Meanwhile, at school, Ashley and her friends grew bolder, empowered by Vice Principal Johnson's indifference. Ashley no longer hesitated to mock Kendra aloud at every opportunity. But unlike before, Kendra no longer responded with anger or despair. Instead, she met their taunts with a calm, powerful silence, an attitude that increasingly frayed their nerves. One afternoon after PE, Ashley swaggered up to her in the hallway, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. Hey Kendra, you've been so quiet lately. Have you finally accepted that there's nothing you can do to stop us? This time, Kendra looked Ashley straight in the eye, her voice steady and confident. You can think whatever you want, Ashley. But I'm done playing by your rules. Kendra's unexpected composure threw Ashley off for a moment. She narrowed her eyes, discomfort flickering across her face. Oh, looks like someone's got a little pride again, huh? Let's see how long you can keep that up. Ashley spun on her heel and walked away, but inside, she felt an unfamiliar unease. She realized Kendra was no longer so easily manipulated. Brianna and Jessica exchanged glances, uncertainty in their eyes. Ashley, do you think she's planning something? Jessica whispered. Ashley gave a cold laugh, masking her worry. She can't do anything. But if she really wants a fight, I'm more than happy to give her one. Kendra watched them go with a quiet smile, a small but powerful sign of her confidence and resolve. She knew her battle wasn't just against Ashley or her clique. It was a fight to reclaim her dignity, her self-respect, and to rediscover her true worth. And this time, with the wisdom and perseverance her father had instilled in her, Kendra knew she was ready to face them and claim her victory once and for all. The calm, new resolve in Kendra was clearly not part of Ashley's calculations. Over the next few days, Ashley watched her rival in secret, uneasy and intrigued by the confidence steadily shining in Kendra's eyes. Finally, her bruised pride drove Ashley to act. She would do whatever it took to reclaim her throne. That lunchtime, the Cedar Ridge cafeteria buzzed as usual, clusters of students laughing and chatting at long tables. Kendra and Zoe slipped inside quietly, scanning for a place to sit, only to be cut off by Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica, blocking the aisle. Ashley planted herself front and center, arms crossed, her cold gaze sweeping the room as she raised her voice for maximum effect. Oh look, Kendra's here. I guess we'll have to move, right? God forbid our special friend accuses us of bullying again. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd, and the cafeteria fell silent as everyone turned to watch. Ashley beamed, relishing the spotlight she had forced onto Kendra. But this time, Kendra lifted her head. She met Ashley's stare with a calm, unwavering poise and spoke softly but clearly, each word a precise strike. Ashley, you sure do love shouting so everyone notices you. Don't you ever get tired of tearing others down just to feel good about yourself? Murmurs spread through the room, curiosity sharpening into approval. Brianna and Jessica shifted uneasily beside Ashley, clearly surprised that the once silent girl could respond so fiercely. Ashley's brow furrowed as she struggled to maintain composure, her voice faltering slightly. "Oh, how strong you sound. But don't think that playing the wounded victim and snapping back a few lines will win you any allies. You're just exploiting your condition." Kendra held Ashley's gaze, steady and unflinching. Her voice rang out, confident and resolute. "I'm not exploiting anything, Ashley. You're the one exploiting everything, your privilege, your status, even other people's fear, to prop yourself up. But do you know what you're really showing? Your own weakness and insecurity." The cafeteria fell utterly silent. Kendra's words cut through Ashley's facade like a sharpened blade. Brianna and Jessica exchanged wide-eyed looks, unable to believe the quiet girl before them had delivered such a powerful rebuke. Ashley's face flushed with a mix of anger and shame, yet she found no retort. For the first time, she was disarmed in front of a crowd, and it hurt more than she expected. Taking one deliberate step forward, Kendra lowered her voice so that both Ashley and the entire room could hear. "If you want to keep trying to belittle me to make yourself feel better, go right ahead. But I suggest you use that energy to look in the mirror, because what you did today will come back to haunt you someday." With that, Kendra rolled past Ashley as though she were simply part of the cafeteria's scenery, Zoe following behind with admiration shining in her eyes. Around them, students watched Kendra depart with newfound respect. Ashley remained frozen, silent fury burning in her eyes. Her wounded pride only solidified her determination. She would make sure Kendra deeply regretted today's words. As Kendra and Zoe slipped out of sight, Brianna leaned in, voice trembling with genuine concern. "Ashley, are you okay? She's different now. Not like before." Ashley turned, her gaze colder than ice, whispering with fierce resolve. "No. She's not different, she's just showing her true colors. And she crossed the line today. Trust me, I'll make her regret it." Jessica and Brianna exchanged uneasy glances, but they knew Ashley's word was law. Once she decided to retaliate, nothing could stop her. Down the hall, outside the cafeteria, Zoe looked at Kendra with awe in her voice. "Kendra, that was incredible, the bravest thing I've ever seen." Kendra offered a small, confident smile, though tension still flickered behind her calm facade. She understood that what she'd said today was only the opening salvo in a far larger battle. This time, she was ready, not with anger or brute strength, but with the steady courage, clear-headed strategy, and quiet confidence she had worked so hard to build. The clear shift in Kendra's demeanor during the cafeteria showdown spread like wildfire through the school. And for the first time, whispers about her weren't laced with pity. Instead, many students began to regard the girl in the wheelchair with a mixture of curiosity and genuine respect, as if they had just realized she was far stronger than they'd ever imagined. Among those who saw it, English teacher Maria Rodriguez took special note. Ms. Rodriguez was dedicated and passionate, always looking out for her students, especially those who were vulnerable or marginalized. What she'd witnessed wasn't an accident, but deliberate bullying, and that realization both surprised and pained her. After classes that day, Ms. Rodriguez resolved she could no longer sit by in silence. She marched to the office, determined to act in defense of Kendra. The office door opened quietly to reveal Vice Principal Charles Johnson reviewing student files. He glanced up, surprise flickering across his normally impassive face when he saw Ms. Rodriguez's serious expression. "Maria, what's on your mind?" he asked, polite but guarded. Taking a steadying breath, she spoke with calm resolve. "Charles, I need to talk to you about what happened today between Ashley Morgan and Kendra Williams in the cafeteria. That was outright bullying. We can't ignore it any longer." Johnson frowned and sighed, as though this were a minor annoyance. "Maria, I think you're misunderstanding. That was just a little spat between students, nothing worth intervening for." Anger flared in Ms. Rodriguez's chest, but she kept her voice level. "I disagree. I saw it myself. Ashley deliberately targeted and humiliated Kendra. We need to take concrete action to stop it. Leaning back, steepling his fingers, Johnson's tone turned cold. Maria, I know you want to protect your students, but look at the bigger picture. Ashley Morgan is one of our top students, and her family are among our biggest donors. If we make a big deal, it could seriously damage Cedar Ridge's reputation. Ms. Rodriguez stared at him, stunned, her voice trembled with disbelief and anger. Charles, are you saying we should turn a blind eye to wrongdoing because of money and prestige? We're educators. He shook his head curtly, finality in his gaze. No, Maria. I'm saying we need to think carefully before acting. Teen disagreements happen all the time. We shouldn't jeopardize these girls' futures over a few thoughtless words. Her heart twisted with disappointment. Ms. Rodriguez made one last plea. If we do nothing, we send the message that bullying is acceptable here. Slowly, Johnson stood and placed his hands on his desk, authority in every line of his posture. I've made my decision, Maria. Drop it. Don't make a fuss. It's best for everyone. Realizing she'd lost this battle, Ms. Rodriguez nodded, burying her bitterness. Yes, Charles. As she left, her heart ached with helplessness. But a new determination was kindling within her. If the system wouldn't protect Kendra, she would do everything in her power to support her. However difficult that might be. Meanwhile, in a hallway corner, Ashley stood with Brianna and Jessica, each of them having overheard part of the exchange. Jessica whispered, worried, "This is serious, Ashley. Miss Rodriguez really means business this time." Ashley laughed coldly, her face eerily calm. "No need to panic. Johnson won't touch us. But now Kendra's dragging teachers into this? She'll pay for that." Brianna pressed on, uneasy. "What's your next move?" Ashley's smile turned dangerous. "If Kendra wants a real fight, I'll give her one. It's time she learned that challenging me was her biggest mistake." Unaware of the showdown in Johnson's office, Kendra pressed on with her own battles, having no idea that she just entered the most dangerous phase of her fight yet, with Ashley and her clique ready to do anything to break her, and a school system that had chosen to look the other way. After Miss Rodriguez's well-meaning efforts were coldly shut down, life at Cedar Ridge felt increasingly suffocating. Kendra did her best to stay strong. She didn't want her parents to worry. But Marcus Williams, a perceptive and experienced father, had already noticed something was very wrong with his daughter's behavior. One afternoon, Marcus arrived at school earlier than usual to pick Kendra up. He waited patiently in his car, eyes fixed on the school gate, growing uneasy when he saw Kendra approach, her face tight with stress and exhaustion. What pained him even more was spotting Ashley Morgan, Brianna Hall, and Jessica Turner not far away, whispering, laughing, openly mocking Kendra. Unable to stand it any longer, Marcus stepped out of the car and strode toward the three girls. His arrival instantly drew the attention of nearby students, who fell silent and stared curiously at him and at Ashley's group. Ashley glanced at the tall, imposing man advancing on her, a flicker of discomfort passing across her face before she forced back a proud mask of nonchalance. Marcus stopped in front of her, his eyes stern and icy, his voice firm and authoritative. "Ashley Morgan, right? I'm Marcus Williams, Kendra's father. I want to speak with you and your friends directly." Ashley raised one eyebrow, crossing her arms as she tried to appear composed, though her voice quavered slightly. "Yes, sir. Is there a problem?" Marcus held her gaze, his tone low but powerful, each word sharp as a blade. "I've heard all about what you and your friends have been doing to Kendra. Let me remind you that deliberately hurting and bullying someone is never acceptable. You need to stop this, right now." Ashley's face flushed with anger and shame, her pride wounded by his direct intervention. She forced a cold response, full of defiance. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you're misunderstanding. Kendra probably exaggerated everything to get your sympathy." Marcus clenched his fist but restrained his anger. His next words were filled with resolve. "I'm not here to argue. But let me warn you, if you continue hurting my daughter, I won't stand by quietly again. I will do whatever is necessary to protect her, no matter how big the issue becomes." The entire courtyard fell silent. Students watched in astonishment, unable to believe Kendra's father had confronted Ashley so boldly. Ashley stood frozen, perhaps for the first time in her life, completely stripped of control. Marcus then turned gently and walked back to Kendra, his expression softening as he looked at his daughter's emotional face. He placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke quietly, "Let's go home, sweetheart." Kendra nodded silently, a deep relief and gratitude filling her, for the first time, knowing she was not alone in this fight. As Marcus and Kendra disappeared from view, Ashley remained rooted to the spot. Eyes blazing with silent fury and wounded pride, Jessica and Brianna exchanged worried glances. Jessica whispered, her voice trembling, "Ashley, what do we do now?" Ashley ground her teeth, her eyes cold with determined anger. "He crossed the line today, and I'll never forgive that insult. Kendra thinks her dad can save her? We'll make sure she understands exactly who holds the power at Cedar Ridge." Brianna looked to Ashley, anxious but unwilling to challenge her friend's resolve. Ashley turned on her heel and strode off, each step echoing her deep-seated rage and the revenge she was already plotting in her mind. Meanwhile, despite her father's protection, anxiety still knotted in Kendra's chest. Marcus noticed her unease and gently squeezed her hand. "Kendra, this fight isn't over yet. But remember, I'm always here for you. Stay strong. Stay calm. Think clearly in every moment. You're not alone. We'll get through this together." Kendra looked up at her father, gratitude and fierce determination swelling in her heart. His words reminded her that no matter how tough things got, she must never give up. What she didn't realize was that her father's confrontation with Ashley had only made Ashley more ruthless and more dangerous than ever. And the real battle, fierce, relentless, and full of unexpected dangers, was only just beginning. The public confrontation between Marcus Williams and Ashley Morgan became the talk of Cedar Ridge for days afterward. For the first time, Ashley's power and status were seriously challenged, wounding her pride and sparking a cold rage even she didn't expect. In that fury, Ashley quietly vowed to make Kendra pay a heavy price, to prove once and for all that at Cedar Ridge, power belonged only to her. One late weekend afternoon, the sun dipping below the horizon, shadows stretched across the empty hallways. The debate club had just let out, and most members had gone home, only a few remained, including Kendra. She packed up her books at a leisurely pace and said goodbye to Zoe, then began to wheel herself out of the room. The halls were eerily quiet, broken only by the soft whir of her wheelchair wheels. Unbeknownst to her, Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica were lurking in a hidden alcove, like predators waiting to strike. Leaning against the cold wall, Ashley's icy blue eyes tracked Kendra's every move. Her voice was low but resolute. "This is the perfect moment. No one's left to save her now." Brianna glanced nervously at Ashley and whispered, her voice trembling, "Are you sure about this, Ashley? Isn't this going too far?" Ashley turned a cold, commanding stare on Brianna. Her tone was measured but absolute. "Brianna, if you want to stay on my good side, you will keep quiet and do exactly what I say." Jessica nodded eagerly, her eyes bright with cruel anticipation as she raised her phone to record, ready to film Ashley. Ashley took a steadying breath, then stepped out from the shadows and blocked Kendra's path. The sudden appearance of the three girls made Kendra start and stop in her tracks, panic rising in her chest. "What do you want, Ashley?" Kendra asked, keeping her voice as calm as she could, though her insides were screaming. Ashley's lips curved into a cold smile as she took a deliberate step closer. Her voice was deceptively soft but laced with menace. "Kendra, you seem to forget that even if your dad threatened me, it wouldn't change the fact that you're nothing here at Cedar Ridge. Today, I'll remind you exactly who you really are." Before Kendra could react, Ashley lunged, grabbing Kendra's arm and yanking it hard. Off balance, Kendra toppled from her wheelchair and crashed onto the cold concrete floor. Pain exploded through her body, every bone felt like it was on fire. She tried to push herself up, palms Scorching against the pavement, her palms burned, but Kendra bit her lip to keep the tears at bay. She refused to show weakness. Brianna and Jessica burst into laughter, their phones aimed at her, voices brimming with glee. Look at that, Kendra finally took a fall. No more strength for her now. Ashley circled her like a predator, eyes alight with ruthless satisfaction. Her taunt rang loud for anyone nearby. Well, Kendra can't fight back now, huh? Where's your dad? Guess he's not here to save you. Kendra fought down the pain and humiliation, her voice shaking but filled with resolve. Ashley, you'll pay for this. Ashley laughed, cold and sharp, then leaned in close, her voice soaked in scorn. I'd love to see you try. But don't forget, Cedar Ridge is my playground. You'll never beat me here. With that, she straightened and strode off, pride in every step. Brianna and Jessica followed, still laughing and checking their malicious recordings. Alone on the hard ground, Kendra lay still as the first tears finally escaped. Her heart felt shattered, her pride deeply bruised, but beneath the ache, a spark flared. She would not let Ashley win so easily. Drawing in a deep breath, she pressed her hands into the cold concrete and began to push herself up. Every movement throbbed with pain, but she knew she had to rise, not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever suffered like this. What she didn't yet realize was that Ashley's cruelty today would mark a turning point in her fight. From this moment on, the truly strong girl inside Kendra would rise, and she would be ready for the final, decisive battle. Lying on the cold ground, pain coursing through her body, Kendra felt like she'd hit rock bottom. Yet, amidst Ashley and her friends' cruel taunts, laughter that seemed to wrap around her chest and choke her heart, something stirred inside her. A strange, fierce fire ignited. Hotter, more intense than anything she'd ever known. She closed her eyes and heard her father's voice echoing in her mind. Marcus Williams's calm yet commanding tone, Kendra, true strength doesn't come from muscle or anger, it comes from your heart and your will. Always believe in yourself. Those words washed over her like cool water, washing away the despair, leaving behind a blade-sharp, unbreakable resolve. With that blazing determination, Kendra steadied her breath, planted her palms firmly, and began to rise. Pain screamed through her body, but she poured everything into each push. As she rose, slow but steady, Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica could only stare. Ashley froze, the smug smile vanishing, replaced with stunned disbelief. Brianna and Jessica dropped their phones, their mouths agape as they watched the impossible unfold. No way, Ashley stammered, trying to reclaim her composure, but the fear in her voice betrayed her. Kendra stood, legs trembling but upright, after months of grueling recovery and training. She faced the girl who had tried to destroy her, and in Kendra's eyes, a fierce confidence gleamed. Ashley, Kendra said, voice ringing clear and strong, you were wrong to think I'd be so easy to break. Ashley took a step back, panic and fury clashing in her expression. She barked at Brianna and Jessica, don't just stand there, let's teach her a lesson. The three lunged, convinced she was still too weak from her accident to resist. But they'd made their gravest mistake. As Ashley reached for Kendra's hair, Kendra moved, swift, precise, and unafraid. Dodging the attack, she tapped into the martial arts her father had taught her since childhood. In one fluid motion, she grabbed Ashley's wrist, twisted sharply, and Ashley cried out, collapsing to the floor. Jessica hesitated, then charged. Be intercepted by Kendra's precise kick to her knee. Jessica collapsed in agony. Brianna, terrified, rushed in clumsily, but Kendra remained calm. She locked Brianna's arm into a flawless hold, forcing her to her knees, groaning. What felt like an instant stretched into a moment of breathtaking precision and control. The three girls who once ruled the school now lay sprawled in terror and impotence, staring up at Kendra in disbelief. Off to the side, Zoe Martinez, eyes wide with amazement, captured every second on her phone. She could scarcely believe her friend, the one who had silently taken so much, had become this astonishing force. Ashley lay on the ground, struggling to sit up, her voice weak but filled with hatred. Kendra, you'll regret this. Kendra looked down at her with a mix of pity and resolve, her voice steady. I'm not doing this out of vengeance, Ashley. I'm doing it so you understand that no one has the right to hurt others just to feel powerful. True strength isn't earned by bullying and oppression. Ashley bowed her head, consumed by bitter despair, speechless for the first time in her pampered, powerful life. Kendra stepped back gently. Zoe rushed to her side, helping her up and choking out, "You did it, Kendra. I'm so proud of you." Kendra gave her a tired but triumphant smile. Deep inside, she felt a weight lifting from her soul. This battle wasn't over, but she knew she'd already won the greatest victory over her fears, her doubt, and the pain that had once held her down. On the ground, Ashley watched Kendra walk away, her gaze a mixture of rage and wounded pride. She knew she'd lost, but her shattered ego would fuel a smoldering fury for a long time to come. For Kendra, rising to her feet today was more than a physical triumph. It marked the defining moment of her life, when she reclaimed her confidence, her dignity, and her true strength. The spectacular stand Kendra took spread through Cedar Ridge like wildfire, but this time, the whispers weren't cruel. They were full of admiration and respect. Overnight, Zoe's video of the entire incident went viral, stirring unprecedented emotions among students and faculty. The next morning, Principal Richard Hayes received the footage in his quiet, spacious office. He watched it closely, his expression shifting from shock to anger as he saw Ashley and her friends ruthlessly attack Kendra, and especially as he remembered Vice Principal Johnson's shameful inaction. Hayes immediately summoned Johnson to his office. Johnson entered, looking slightly uneasy, though he quickly masked it with his usual confidence. "Richard, what's so urgent?" Johnson asked. Hayes didn't answer right away. Instead, he swiveled his monitor to face Johnson and spoke in a cold, authoritative tone. "Charles, watch this, and explain yourself." Johnson watched in stunned silence, his face going from calm to genuinely worried. Hayes spoke slowly, each word heavy with disappointment. "You knew exactly what was happening, and yet you chose to ignore it to protect a few students with influence. This is a gross betrayal of our duty as educators." Johnson fumbled for a defense. "Richard, it was just a minor incident. I thought we could handle it internally." "Enough," Hayes cut him off sharply. "You have utterly failed in your role. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties as vice principal. I will inform the school board and the authorities." Johnson went pale and fell silent, unable to respond to Hayes's unprecedented decision. Shortly thereafter, Ashley, Brianna, and Jessica were called to the office. Their parents were present as the video was played for them. Ashley's usual confidence evaporated, replaced by fear and despair as she faced the serious consequences of her actions. "You crossed the line," Hayes declared sternly. "This behavior will not be tolerated at Cedar Ridge. As of today, you are expelled and will face criminal charges for assault." Ashley began to cry, overwhelmed by shame and regret as she realized she'd lost everything in her prideful cruelty. Brianna and Jessica lowered their heads, silent, fully aware they'd made the wrong choices. Within a week, Kendra's story had gone national. News broadcasts, newspapers, and social media all rallied around the brave girl who rose from her wheelchair to fight not just for herself, but for countless students silently suffering bullying every day. Kendra became an inspiring symbol, invited onto television programs and speaking tours, where she courageously shared her story. Her message, "True strength lies not in physical power but in courage and the will to stand up for the truth," resonated with millions. Under immense public pressure, Cedar Ridge launched a comprehensive overhaul of its anti-bullying policies. Hayes appointed the dedicated Miss Maria Rodriguez, who had fought to protect Kendra, to be the new vice principal, ensuring a safe, healthy, and fair learning environment for all students. At the school's new policy unveiling, Miss Rodriguez spoke with passion and conviction. "From now on, Cedar Ridge will never turn a blind eye to bullying. Together, we will build a campus where every student feels respected and protected." That evening, as Kendra and her family watched the news coverage, she held her parents' hands, tears of gratitude in her eyes. Marcus gently embraced his daughter, pride in his voice. Kendra, you've shown that by standing up and speaking out, anyone can change the world around them. Nia smiled, her eyes shining with warmth and gratitude. My brave girl, you are a true testament to courage and real strength. Kendra returned their smiles, her heart lighter than ever. She understood that though her journey had been painful and challenging, it had also paved a new path for everyone who'd suffered silently as she once had. For Cedar Ridge, this wasn't simply a tale of revenge or victory. It was a story of justice, courage, and the power of truth, a lesson that would be remembered forever, and a turning point in creating a safer, more respectful, and humane learning environment. What do you think of Kendra Williams' powerful, inspiring story of overcoming adversity and standing up to bullying to secure justice for herself and others? What would you do if you witnessed something similar in your own community?